While I was at the fire department, I got a real estate license. And most of the guys worked 2 jobs. And that's one of the reasons I became a firefighter, because when the guys told me, so man, the guys don't work but 2 or 3 days a week. And the other 2 or 3 days, they'd work on the side, okay? And I was going to school and started taking different business classes and so forth. So I saw an opportunity for me to get into business, okay? So I started going back to school. So I took a real estate license. And as a matter of fact, I was recruited by one of the largest real estate brokers in the city. His name is Mr. Wayne Hiltner from Warren Mortgage and Realty. He had a mortgage company, which means he got loans for people, and he had an insurance agency also, but he was a real estate broker. So he hired me as the first black at the time. At the time, there was only one other black person, and he was a broker. His name was Mr. Blakely, Cyrus Blakely, who was also a former amateur boxing champion and well-known Blakely family, very prominent, active in the community in social and sports and so forth. But matter of fact, Cyrus Blakely, he had fought Wallace Bud Smith in the amateurs and beat him. So he became one of my friends also. But Cyrus was the only black real estate broker in the city. And when I got licensed, he's the only one active. And I went to work for this white company. And during the time, there's a lot of foreclosures around the country, similar like there are now. Back during 2008, when they had the so-called second recession or depression went on. But I was fortunate to come along at that time. And the government, Housing and Urban Development, was just being started. And the head of it was a man out of Cincinnati named D. Hart Hubbard. D. Hart Hubbard was an Olympic broad jump champion in 1924 in Paris, France. And he won that in Paris, France. And he was the first African American to win a gold medal in the Olympics. 12 years after that, of course, Jesse Owens won in Germany. And 12 years after that, my good friend who just passed recently, Harrison Diller from Cleveland in 1948. So being a historian, I can relate to those situations. But Mr. D. Hart Hubbard was married to a woman from Warren, Ohio. She lived on Wood Street. Her name was Miss Audrey. And one of my first girlfriends was Audrey Reed at the time, and she was named after her. So by me being involved with my Black history books and so forth, I remember reading about D. Hart Hubbard, about how significant he was. He was the first African American to win a gold medal in the Olympics. That was in 1926. So he was, at the time, when I got in the real estate business, he was head of the HUD office, assistant head for Minority Affairs in Cleveland. Matter of fact, the first public housing that was made, like the projects in America, was started in Cleveland, Ohio, called Outway. And he's the one who put that whole program together. So I had read about that, and when I saw his name when I visited his office, one of my friends who I went to Youngstown College with, his wife was named Herschel Daniels Sr. He's from Youngstown. His wife was from Niles, Ohio, and we was at Youngstown College together before it became a university. So he was Mr. D. Hart Hubbard's assistant. So after I got licensed in real estate, I had access about relationships is always important. Sometimes it's not always what you know, but who you know. But who you know can help you get in there, but it can't keep you there. So I happen to know the people in charge, and they was able to help me start doing business with HUD, with these foreclosed homes. Because of my activity at the time, the rest of the real estate brokers, real estate people in the city, I was only black active. Mr. Blake was not very active at the time. He had got sick, as a matter of fact. So I was the only black man that's registered and licensed in the state doing business in the city at the time. So I sold a lot of homes in neighborhoods that had not been available to black folks. As a matter of fact, it was an unknown line of demarcation, I call it, that black folks could not move north of West Market Street. It always had to be south of Market Street. So first black folks would move from the northwest section of the city and the northeast section too. I sold those houses. And most of them was foreclosed homes. Some of them had to use a white person to act as an intermediate to buy the houses, then I can sell it to one of my black customers. Those are things happened. And you've heard of redlining and so forth. I was a victim of that. I knew the credit bureau here was ran by a person, and matter of fact, he's a Jewish person. He was the owner. We had all kind of people working for him. I don't know if it's him or who, but I never seen anybody had a good, when they went to that credit bureau, they never had good credit. As a result, because the word liberalism came into view, because HUD housing was one of the first government agencies that opened up and started allowing black folks to get involved in buying housing. For the banks wouldn't loan them money, how much more you worth or what your credit was or whatever. They just outlawed them. It was kind of you understood thing, what they did, because that's when the Democrats, black folk became Democrats, okay, during the so-called Roosevelt administration, when he was more progressive. I told you, rich people was always easier to deal with than people who was not so rich, because they didn't feel intimidated, threatened by us, okay? So they opened up and things opened up. But we opened up, I've sold over 300 homes during that time. I got licensed in 1961, okay? No, I'm sorry, 1963. Went to the fire department in 61. But I got licensed when I was at the fire department in 1963. That was my time job, selling real estate, okay? And before I left, I got a real insurance license. So I was well known in the community. And we would sell to anybody. We sold to most of my clients, was black, of course, but I sold to white folks too. And they were discriminated too to a certain degree.